It's about getting into this place where you feel huge compassion, and from that place of compassion, relating to these parts in a way that actually makes them feel cared about. Just getting these parts to step back, spontaneously, people would enter this other state. And when I would ask about that, now what part of you is that? Because that seems to be useful. Because when they would get into that state, the part that they were working with would react well, wouldn't feel threatened, and would respond in a way that would allow for the dialogue to continue. So I would say, now what part of you is that? And they would say, you know, that's not really a part like these others. That's more of who I am. That's more myself. So that we call the self with the capital S. That place, that, it's hard to describe, find a word, essence in us. That is in everybody. And it is just beneath the surface of these parts. And in addition, can be accessed much more quickly than you ever thought, if you can convince certain parts to open space for it. This has become the centerpiece of the model, this idea of the self and self-leadership and how to achieve that both internally and externally. That, for me, is the big contribution of IFS. The parts of you that got hurt most tend to be the parts of you that are most sensitive, that also tend to be the parts of you that are the most creative and playful and spontaneous and trusting and open and loving and so on. And in the process of getting hurt, they now don't seem so much fun, because they're like a child who got hurt and is stuck in that hurt place. And if you get close to them now, they pull you into it, or they overwhelm you with those feelings, and you don't want to feel that again. We both try ourselves to exile all that stuff, and everybody around us encourages us to exile it. But it turns out, in the process of doing that, you're locking away your juice. You're locking away the most precious parts of you often. So to keep them locked up, we have all these parts who are trying to manage our lives so that nothing similar happens again. Or so we don't get too close to anybody, or we don't let anybody get too distant from us, or we look perfect, or we perform at a really high level, or so on and so on. They're just desperately trying to keep us from getting triggered, from having those parts explode, those exiles explode with all their flames of emotion, because if they ever do, it'll consume us. So these we call the managers. So managers are the parts of us that we know most, that we identify with the most, that we think of as ourselves. Often those self-like parts are managers. They're often the critics. They're criticizing us in an effort to get us to behave. Or they're trying to make you feel bad enough that you never take another risk. And that's going to keep you from getting hurt. What they have in common is a desire to preempt anything that might trigger the exiles, and to control inner and external environments. Now, despite those defenses, the world has a way of still triggering your exiles. And when that happens, as I'm saying, it's a big emergency. It's like the worst possible thing. You're going to die if this continues, if you keep feeling this. So there's another set of parts whose job it is to deal with that emergency and do it right now, to get you out of that state somehow right now. Damn the torpedoes. Don't care about the collateral damage to your relationships, to your body. Whatever it takes, I'm going to get you out. I'm going to get you higher than those flames. Or I'm going to get you out of your body and let the flames burn themselves out. So we call these parts firefighters because they're trying to fight the fire of the exile's emotion.